Good morning to one and all who is watching our Day 2 Pharma Leadership Summit. First session, the opening session just got over, and we had eminent panelists speaking about the COVID-19's impact. Now we are going to a very important session, the very important, rather a very hot topic in the pharma sector. Can PLI scheme make India self-sufficient in KSM intermediaries and APIs? So in this panel, we have the industry veterans and experts and stakeholders who are going to talk about how they are developing strategies to make the industry self-reliant and independent, how the new production-linked incentive scheme will provide a much-needed impetus to the KSMs, intermediaries, and APIs. I would like to welcome all the panelists who are here present with us for the same. I would like to welcome Dr. Biranji Shah, Senior Vice President, IDMA National Body Director, Saga Laboratories. Mr. Prashant Nagre, CEO, Fermenta Biotech Limited. Welcome, sir. We have Mr. Sumit Agarwal, CEO, Ishita Drugs and Industries Limited, and Mr. J. Jayaseelan, Vice President, Industrial Pharmacy Division, Indian Pharmaceutical Association. Thanks a lot, Mr. Jayaseelan ji, for helping us to moderate the session and streamlining the session so well for us. Thanks a lot, and also IPAs are supporting partner for the Pharma Leadership Summit. So I should say thanks a lot to all the IPA members over there, who are also like our delegates in the day one. Also, they are participating in day two also. So, without the further ado, I would hand over to Mr. J. Jayaseelan to moderate the session, sir.
Good morning, all. I welcome everyone, particularly the panel members, my colleagues from the industry, for this Elets Pharma Leadership Summit. And today we have a very interesting theme for this next 1 hour. Can PLI scheme make India self-sufficient in KSMs, intermediates, and API? This is the theme which we are going to discuss. And we have, apart from me, I am Jayaseelan. I am a part of Indian Pharmaceutical Association and also Indian Drug Manufacturer Association. Basically, I am a pharmacist and I am promoter and founder of API company called Neurochemicals and formulation company as well. So with this background, today I am going to coordinate and moderate this session. And we have 3 expert panelists among us. And today we have, as the introduction person said, Dr. Biranji Shah. We have Senior Vice President from IDMA National Body. He is also a pharmacist and director of Saga Laboratories. I'll introduce him more when his session comes. And we have Mr. Prashant Nagre, CEO of Fermenta Biotech Limited with us, and Sumit Agarwal, CFO of Ishita Drugs and Industries Limited. So these 3 panel members, they are going to have their views on this topic, and later, once we listen to their views, then we'll have a discussion among us. And now coming to this, can PLI scheme make India self-sufficient? We should understand first why at all this PLI scheme is needed. In API industry, we all know about Indian pharma industry. We are very proud telling that India is the pharmacy of the world, and we should know some history, go behind a little bit and understand what is the need of this PLI scheme. If you see, friends, colleagues, India is exporting to over 200 countries today. And that is the reason we are telling we are the pharmacy of the world. Even in this pandemic situation, so much of trouble our people are having in current situation. What is happening is, in terms of vaccines or in terms of any medicines, nutraceuticals, vitamins, most of the drugs, azithromycin, all these drugs are given to the country, over 200 countries only by India. How this is happening? This is happening is because of our formulation industry. Indian drug manufacturing industry has made India proud by putting India in front as the supplier of quality and cost-effective medicine to the world. Now, if you see, friends, go back to the history, if you see the era of around 1970, when the then Prime Minister, Honorable Mrs. Indira Gandhi, removed the patent law, till then, there was no Indian pharma industry owned much by Indian, and very few Indian industries were there. And when the product patent was removed and process patent time was reduced, many industries, Indian industries emerged in 80s, followed by the globalization. Indian industry started going abroad and started exporting the medicines. Really, the Indian manufacturers used the no patent opportunity, and they brought in all formulation available which really helped our country. It improves the health sector very much. The life expectancy improved, everything. All latest drugs available in the world was given to our Indian population by the Indian drug manufacturer. Because of those, patent was not there. But the negative side of that, Indian industry grown and become a pharmacy of the world. One reason is patent is not there. Another is globalization. But the negative point is all R&D companies, in multinations, everybody, they went out of India during 1970s and till 2005. Once again, now we are in patent era. Till 2005, all these multinations and the R&D companies, which is fueling the R&D, went out of India because there is no patent protection here. As a result, we have become only a manufacturing hub. Even today, we are a manufacturing hub and we are not able to innovate much. But positive thing is we outgrown and we helped a lot of industries. But in the process, parallelly in API industry, two things happened. If you see in API industry, all technologies, including fermentation, India was doing well in 70s. But parallelly, when we started big in formulation, another political reason or political rule happened is the price control for Indian domestic formulations. Because the initial price control was based on the cost-based price. As a result, many companies could not fight, small to medium companies could not manufacture the products at the price fixed by the government. As a result, they went out of those products. And that is a time China was emerging. China was not a big API that time, and they emerged. They got a lot of techniques, in fact, from fermentation and other things from Indian counterparts, and they made a bigger game out of it. What happened was their scale of manufacturing was multiple times bigger than India, and since we had a compulsion of price matching the price in India, we started buying API from China, and slowly the fermentation and other basic technologies has gone out because our cost effectiveness is not there here. As a result, we indirectly went behind China for all our API requirement. Today, around 60 to 63% of pharmaceutical imports are API and key starting raw material, which is from one country, China, which is not a good sign of drug security for the country. This is what the entire people were discussing. And at the same time, if you see the regulated markets, take DMFs, Drug Master File. Out of 5 Drug Master filed, 3 is from India. Why I'm mentioning this is capacity and say talent-wise, we have all technology, we are able to compete. Regulated market where there is no price barrier, Indian API companies are the champions, and we are far better than or equal to China in multiple products, or we are better than them in regulated markets where price is not a barrier. But in domestic consumption, where we are compelled to give products at certain price, the API cost is the main thing which determines the price. So we were forced to depend on China, and this was the situation right from 2015. IDMA, IPA, and with the pharmaceutical ministry, health ministry, everybody was discussing we should come out of the dependency of API with one country. As a result, multiple strategies were being decided, and they have been talking on multiple strategies of supporting the Indian API industry. The main objective is we should have a cost effectiveness. The API produced in India should be lesser or at par with the China price. Otherwise, we will not be able to match the end formulation price. This is the challenge in front of us. And any API you touch, the cost of China API would be 30 to 40% lesser than Indian API. That is the reason government came with the production linked incentive scheme where they want to support. They also shortlisted around 53 products, which is predominantly imported from the China, and they also wanted to support our API companies in a different scheme. They want to support. The incentive is not really to start the company. They want to link it with the production, because they want our companies which is producing this API should be competitive with China, so that the dependency of that particular API with China should go away. If our Indian country is there, we want to, the government is supporting for 5 years, totally a 6-year scheme. When the particular API is produced by one country, one company or two companies, mainly by one company, product wise they are giving, what happens is that particular product dependency will slowly come down from China, because 30% up to 10% scheme is given to the bigger biotech industry, and various kind of schemes are there, which we will discuss along with our panel members today. The concept is to support the industries, greenfield industries who are coming into API. The purpose of this PLI scheme, which will help us, our Indian counterpart, to compete with the China in price. This way, the dependency can come away. Not only this, colleagues, if you take biotech industry, the key starting raw materials are coming from Europe and US. Even we are noticing the problem for vaccines. US is telling they will give first preference to their country, all those things. So the key starting material is becoming a problem, where the PLI scheme wanted to really help the biotech industry also. We have multiple panel members who are expert in biotech, core API industry, and from formulation background, how API is going to be a predominant thing, and PLI scheme, how it is going to help us. So we have different panel members. So what I thought is, rather than me speaking, I can always interact then and there. Let me call one by one our panel members. First, I would like to request our Dr. Virenji Shah, PhD, and who is an entrepreneur and pharmacist, who is the Senior National Vice President of the prestigious Indian Drug Manufacturer Association, and who is the Managing Director of Saha Life Sciences, which is a EU GMP, PICS approved, TGA Australia approved facility. He is a professional and entrepreneur, and he will have a lot of views, and definitely being a representative of IDMA, he can tell us his views, also the IDMA's views on this PLI scheme. Let us listen to Dr. Virenji Shah. Please, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jaiseelan. A very good morning to Mr. Prashant and Sumit. It is great to be here today. I hope all of you are testing negative and staying positive in these very difficult times. But let me start with a statistics that is encouraging, and I've used this earlier. There are more people alive today than have ever died. I know we are more than 7 billion people alive, and all these 7 billion people, we all need roti, kapda, makan, and healthcare. Just to give you an idea of the opportunities that we have on hand, we have larger opportunities in healthcare sector than ever existed. Especially this has been catalyzed by the crisis that we are facing for the year and a half. This has further precipitated the need for a strong healthcare system. And when we talk of a healthcare system, as per the Indian statistics, the total size of the healthcare business is almost in the tune of $90 to $100 billion, of which around $20 billion is the pharmaceuticals, around $60 billion is the hospital industry, around $6 billion is the devices, almost $6 billion is the diagnostics, and then the other supporting industries. So pharmaceuticals form almost 20 to 25% of the entire healthcare industry, and that is why the role of the pharmaceutical industry in ensuring a strong nation, in ensuring a strong humanity, is so important. When we speak of India, as Mr. Jaiseelan has already stated, here we are one of the topmost runners in pharmaceutical industry. We claim the pharmacy of the world, the third largest manufacturer of formulations, and a very well evolved industry since 1970s when the Patent Act was amended. and there was an influx of a lot of investment into India. Since last 30-40 years, we have been doing wonderful in the world, supplying essential medicines to almost 200 countries. In doing that, there were certain amendments in the socio-economic and legal status in India, especially with respect to the environment laws. And all of these APIs that we are talking of being imported, most of them were earlier manufactured in India. And unfortunately, we don't want to get into the reasons why those industries had to migrate. But many of these industries, for example, in Gujarat, the API industry is almost 100 years old. That's how old the APIs have been manufactured in Gujarat. But unfortunately, because of changes in the environment law, the sudden changes, I would say it was probably not managed well. Further aggravated by these fierce competition posed by China and some other players. Ultimately, this industry had to migrate. And when we responsibly say we are the pharmacy of the world, and also for the national security on medications and on the healthcare, it is important that India has the backward and forward integration in providing healthcare. In terms of the forward integration, we have seen a lot of investments being announced by the central government in the recent budget, where there is a lot of investment coming for the primary, secondary, and tertiary healthcare centers in setting hospitals and the other things. In the same way, as a backward integration, it was important that the Indian pharmaceutical industry should become self-dependent on the APIs, which is a major importing component that the industry has. If we look at the system Atmanirbhar Bharat, under which the PLI scheme has been launched, it is not that we want to become self-sufficient. What we are seeing is self-dependent, Atmanirbhar. We are talking of self-dependency. Today, no geography in the world can claim to be manufacturing everything from the very basic to the end product. But at least the attempt is that at least if I can have a formidable industry, at least 50% or 60% of these drugs can be manufactured in India over a span of next 3, 4, 5 years. We will be able to handhold an industry to that level where we will no longer be dependent on other countries to give us the basic needs of those products. And that is very important. Under the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister, he himself actually launched this PLI 1, which was in March 2020. And I was fortunate to be a part of that particular event. And the entire premise is that we want to bring those molecules, those critical molecules back to India. So as Mr. Jaisalan, he said, we have identified almost 43 APIs, or the KSMs, which 41 KSMs, out of which 14 are based on fermentation and 27 are based on the chemical synthesis. This is, I'm talking of the PLI 1. And out of those 14 of the fermentation, 4 are very key, like 6 APA, 7 ACA, THIOC and CLAV. These are basic fermentation based APIs which are covered under the scheme. And there are 10 other key starting materials and intermediates that are also covered, which are fermentation based. So we have 14 molecules that are fermentation based under the scheme. And out of the 27 of the synthetic based APIs, we have 4 which are very key, which includes the PAP, the CDA, the MINI, and the DCDA. These are the 4 key APIs which are based on synthetic process. And there are other 23 molecules that are identified for the scheme, where which are based on the synthetic manufacturing process. The scheme has a total outlay of almost 10,000 crores, where 3,000 crores is outlay for the setting up of the parks, the physical investment or the physical infrastructure for setting up for helping the API industry, and 7,000 is going to be in form of the product linked incentives, where in case of the synthetic APIs, the incentive is 10% of the incremental turnover for a particular API, and for the synthetic, it is going to be the 20% of the performance of the incremental production value for the next 7 years. So this is how the entire scheme has been formed. IDMA was since inception a part of discussion with the Department of Pharma and various stakeholders in launching the scheme, and we have played a very constructive role in trying to give out the apprehensions that the industry had faced. Many of these apprehensions have been taken care of. Some are still there, which we are still discussing with the government. On the launch of this scheme, 86 companies with 250 applications had approached the Department of Pharma. And out of the 4 key fermentation-based KSMs, all of the 4 have been approved as of date. So they have the manufacturers and the projects have been identified and sanctioned in principle. Out of the 10 fermentation-based KSMs, we have received, the government, as per the data available to me, have received applications for 5 products. Certain product applications are still missing, like molecules like neomycin, gentamicin, clindamycin, tetracycline. Some of these molecules applications are still missing, and I think still government and industry are interacting on what are the issues on why people are not coming forward and how government and industry can work together to close this gap. For the synthetic APIs, for the key 4 out of the 4, we have received, the government has received application for 3, except the DCDA. The problem I have told in DCDA is it is based on some minerals that come out of the Mongolian caves, where China has a better access, and the value addition in this particular KSM is very small. DCDA is actually leads to metformin and those group of APIs. So this is, apart from that, the applications have been received for all the other 3, and they have been identified. For the 23 synthetic API KSMs, application have been received from all. 11 have been already announced, and 12 are under review. So the work has been done for all these molecules, as we say. There are certain limitations, or I would say challenges, that we had taken to the government. For example, the biggest challenge, if you don't take PLI as the entirety of the effort is to bring the industry here, and PLI is one of the ways of augmenting it. There are so many other things that have been done. For example, there were in the current environmental laws, the procedures that were been laid down were typically too cumbersome, and it took a lot of time for somebody to introduce a new product, to modernize their plants, to add to expand their existing facilities. It was so cumbersome. So we went to the government, and a lot of work has been done on that. Right now, the approvals are given on based on the larger definition, which is the API and intermediates, rather than specific APIs or class of APIs. At least we could achieve these on the topmost level, which is the environment clearance level. We are still talking with the state pollution control boards to implement it, so that it can percolate down for clearance to the existing industries. We have made it clear to the government that as IDMA, we don't want to say that you change the law and change the environment effluent system. But our point is that so long as the quantity and quality of the effluent remain the same, you should focus on that rather than focusing on what is being manufactured and how much is being manufactured. So flexibility should be there to the entrepreneurs on handling what to manufacture and how much to manufacture. Yes, of course, the constraint has to be on the amount of effluent and the quality of effluent that is generated. And so long as that is not touched, the industry should be given that flexibility. Another challenge that we are facing is, we need the strengthening of CETPs for these industries to grow. Because if we have a strong CETPs, then a lot of load would be transferred from the API industry to the treating industry. And we strongly believe that the API industry are people who are experts in chemistry or biochemistry, and they should be allowed to do their work. There are experts available in form of CETPs who are experts in environment impact of these things, and let those people. So if we simultaneously culture and develop the CETPs across India, it would really help the API industry, and the overall objective of these PLIs would be, or overall objective of bringing this industry back to India would be achieved. Another constraint that we have highlighted is the difference between, the current PLI is structured on the green investment, I mean the green projects where there are new investment. We've been talking to the government how some of these incentives could also be given to the brownfield where there is a facility which has some capacity, and how this capacity can be utilized in order to achieve the overall goal. But having said that, what we have been achieved till date with the support of the government, with the support of the regulators, has been very substantial. We have at least worked 2/3 of what we want to achieve, and the way it is going, we are, as IDMA, we are very confident that in coming 3 to 4 years, or I would say 2 to 3 years, that is going to be a major impact in the manufacturing capabilities of the Indian API industry, and a lot of APIs would be available which we are currently importing in India, importing from China or any other countries. Many of these will come to India. Apart from this, there is a big substantial growth in the formulation industry. So the API industry has a big market to cater within domestic industry. One of the apprehension that the API industry is also putting is that if a country like China or any other current supplier, they suddenly bring down the prices, and then the entire calculation of the basic premise of the entire system will be collapsed. So we have talked to the government, and they have assured us that they'll try to help further. They'll try to give some future protection in case there are major price fluctuation. But as of now, it seems that the entire scheme with support from everybody is going forward, and we are happy that it is happening. And you can see the entire machinery being very serious to develop this industry. So compliments to the government and to industry both, who have worked forward to this. Subsequently, we have also brought, there has been PLI 2 which has been launched, and this PLI 2 is basically focusing on the formulation part, on the new drug delivery systems, on the research and development, in bringing products and molecules that are not currently manufactured in India, the recently getting off-patented products, in high-grade excipients. Currently we are also importing a lot of excipients. We are talking of APIs all the time, but there is also a big chunk of good quality excipients that we are importing from many developed nations. So these are also some of the areas the detailed working of the scheme is still going on, and there is an outlay of almost 15,000 crores for PLI 2, which is mostly focused on the research and development, because since 1970s we have demonstrated that we are excellent in manufacturing, yet a lot of work has to be done on the research capabilities of this nation. And this 15,000 crores, we are working closely with the government, and the regulators are also sensitive of the industry, and hopefully a very good incentive scheme will come out where people who are interested in research, development, newer molecules, these high-grade excipients, if they come forward and invest, I think in the coming next 5 to 10 years, we are looking at a scenario where we are mostly going to be more than self-dependent. I would say we cannot, maybe not be 100% self-sufficient, but it would be much more than self-dependence, and we would actually be also offering these molecules for international market. So I think we have a wonderful, opportunity at hand, and the way the industry is progressing, for the last 10 years we have grown in the domestic business almost 1.5 times the GDP. In exports we are doing even better. The numbers that we have last got is close to more than 18% growth in exports. So this is an industry to look out for, to invest in, and I personally see a lot of growth in both the API and formulation industry. PLI scheme is going to play a very significant role in growth of the industry. So these are my feelings or my views about this scheme. Mr. Jayasiran, I would be happy to take questions. Thank you.
Yeah, well done, Dr. Vrenche. As usual, you have given your views, and you have given a very detailed but 360-degree of information on the PLI scheme, and we are happy to see you have even shared the current application level, 215 application with 86 companies, and what are the products still not applied. Good insight. We will come back to you with some of our questions and clarification little later once the other two panelists express their view. Now we will go to Mr. Prashant Nagre, CEO of Fermenta Biotech Limited. Prashant's outlook of health and hygiene are the twin motors that drive Fermenta's business, be it for its flagship product vitamin D or integrated biotechnology solution, including enzyme platform. Prashant's singular focus on nutrition now fuels the company's hunger. Actually, once he has become the CEO during his tenure for more than a decade, Fermenta has expanded from a solely a domestic focused business to a global company with more than 70% of revenue now arising from exports. And under Prashant's leadership, Fermenta won the prestigious India's Pharma Awards 2018 for three categories. Fermenta is proud to be certified as a great place to work at. That is very important. Credit to his CEO, the CEO here. He is with over 28 years experience, gold medalist, postgraduate diploma holder, international trade, and finally, he lives in Thane with his wife and his son, who is also a recent chemical engineer. And here is Prashant Nagre, who is going to take us through the effect of PLI scheme, preferably in the biotechnology and fermentation route. Also, we'll hear from him. Sir, please.
Thank you so much. I think for the introduction and the wonderful introductory experts given by you as well as Dr. Shah. I think you guys have had a first-hand look at the policy formation because of your roles in the statutory bodies that you have. And I have learned few things today, and I'm the recent thing that 86, because when this was announced, we are old time. I mean, I am now 30 years in this industry, and becoming old timers, we also sometimes become less optimistic. And I think today it has been proven when you are asking this question, that is this PLI scheme going to change the way ahead in Indian pharma industry? To me, the answer is when 215 people make applications in 86 companies, it shows that they have a faith in this administration, they have faith in this country, and they have faith in the way of us shaping our own future. Because I think somewhere in the past 30 years, so many negative things happened that probably we felt that ye apna kaam nahi hai, China ka kaam hai, China se लाएंगे, हम तो गोली बनाएंगे. So that changed, that completely changed with this. I think I'm a pharmacist by background, and there will be many. Jaiselan sir is a pharmacist. So I think for us, it is a movement of pride that people have faith in this system. Okay. So coming to my line answer on will this scheme be effective? Will this scheme be? To me, the first phase is always a honeymoon phase. It is a lot of happiness when you have to spend money. So this is the investment phase, and everyone has a promise, and everyone is going to bring in the new cash and put that cash, and we have wonderful project teams, and reviewing those project teams and putting the plans is where we have got done very well. I think the second phase will be more challenging in my opinion, and that is making sure that we remain competitive. I do not believe that to remain competitive, I need to have some incentive from someone. That's wrong. That is not a good starting point. It is necessary to encourage investment. Yes, I do agree completely. So the first phase is perfectly fine, that we are expecting something for a very long period from Government of India in terms of incentive. But is that going to be enough? And the answer is definitely not going to be. And fortunately for me, when Shah sir was saying that in Gujarat, it's 100 years history of APIs, and the fermentation based APIs, one of those large plants outskirts of Baroda, I was responsible. So I have first-hand experience of running a large-scale fermentation with 1 million liters capacity, and was involved in at least reviving a couple of others again in Baroda, which is more than 1.5 million liters capacity, and something in Pune outskirts, which was the oldest government-run company, which is probably more than 2 million liters fermentation capacity. So I know the case study like understanding of what went wrong last time around. And I will today, because I think I'm not an expert on the chemistry synthesis today is not my topic. I would love to devote attention on what went wrong probably. So I think I'll just spend 1 minute here, because I think we know, and Jaiselan sir has given a very nice perspective of what went wrong because of the DPCO and the entire orientation and the kind of stuff. So I will only touch upon one thing, I think, and I will conclude that in very simple manner here. When drugs were available cheaper from outside, we became complacent. because running a fermentation plant, because I've run one, it is a lot of hard work. It is not for light-hearted people. जिनका कमकुवत हृदय है ना, उन्होंने इस इंडस्ट्री में भी नहीं आना है. यहाँ पे रोज सुबह अलग तरीके का मैग्नीट्यूड है. I mean, when I just to give you one line, when a large fermentation requires a sugar source, and that is sugar, for example, carbon source, you can be looking at 2,000 metric tons of carbon in supply chain every day. Something on the ship, something somewhere else, and something in your warehouse and whatnot. And it is a series of fermenters running, because fermentation cannot run like chemical synthesis. कि 3 reactor में लगा है. You have to have battery of fermenters running together and then doing downstream for them. So this is for weak. It is not for weak-hearted. And I think somewhere in the last cycle, we lost that. We said that it is easier to get it from outside. Why should we produce and get all this headache? That was the first reason which happened. The second one was that fermentation industry also requires constant innovation in terms of improvements in upstream and downstream. And a lot of it is through biotechnology in the upstream, because that's where there is no limitation. Something which is giving you 1 gram per liter can even give you 100 grams per liter. And that needs to be innovated. Last time around, our industry just forgot to invest in that, because they thought that we are the only guys here. They never thought that something will come from outside. And we were caught completely unaware. And when we started getting competition, that is too late. तभी थोड़ी ना आप compete कर पाओगे. Competition and the readiness for competition, if for example this PLI scheme and all hopefuls who have now put in money or will put money, they have to start yesterday to make sure that they have the strategy for the next 10 years in terms of an improvement plan. Somewhere Dr. Shah mentioned that there are things coming to us from even the developed world. Developed world में हम तो रोते रहते हैं कि हमारे यहाँ पे बिजली महंगी है, पानी महंगा है. Can you believe that in Austria, what will be the bijli ka rate and pani ka rate and what is the effluent ka complications and all? They still run a very, very successful large-scale fermentation industry there. How? Because they invest in the yields, they invest in the strengths. And what is the biotechnology strength of this country? Because Jaishalan sir said very clearly that we are a nation blessed with young people. We were all young at one point in time. We came out of wonderful colleges and institutes, and today we are doing fantastically well in our own fields. There are this battery of people. I think University of Anna University in Chennai has got wonderful biotechnology-based background. These guys can work on us, and most of it, you can see that the government institutes today collaborate like no one's business in India. They do fantastic work. You need to know people. You need to kind of go and take those opportunities. Indian industry will need to have that in mind, that we need to invest from today to keep this. You will get support from government. That is why you put in that money in the beginning. But now to keep yourself, absolutely, because I think the threat from China, in my opinion, is not going to go away in the next 10 years. So if I am running an Indian pharma industry, let us say XYZ Indian pharma industry, formulation का कंपनी है मेरा, और मुझे मिल रहा है पेनिसिलिन जी बाहर से सस्ते में, और इंडिया में मैं क्यों आत्मनिर्भरता, वो मेरे लिए क्या जरूरत है, वो सब philosophical है ना. If I am getting penicillin G from China at a lower price than my Indian fellows can give me, and I have to run a successful formulation business in India, why would I buy from India? Do we buy anything today which is cheaper coming from outside in India? We do not. We will not. And this is only we are looking at supply side. We are not looking at demand side. The demand side will not be polite. It will not be accepting inefficiency. So I think my entire mantra, and I will not stress this point beyond this, is the entire mantra is going to be, we have to invest from today for this scheme to remain successful. Yes, the government of India has encouraged people to come to this side, because no one in Indian industry was ever thinking and investing in multiples of 400s of crore, which government wanted in the large 4 key fermentation based things. And now the penicillin G, for example, would be even in excess of 1,400 crores. ऐसा investment India में किसी ने कभी सोचा नहीं था on this scheme. So government has encouraged that, and I appreciate that. The scheme is ambitious, it is challenging, and most important, it is transparent. So I think phenomenal work by Government of India and all the agencies of industry like ITMA and few others who have contributed in this scheme is phenomenal. I think you guys will go in the annals of history for having supported and done something as innovative as this. लेकिन अपना काम बहुत बाकी है, इंडस्ट्री का काम बहुत बाकी है, and that we have to realize, and we have the capabilities. In my opinion, right from the vaccines to monoclonal antibodies, in biotechnology अपने यहाँ पे किसी चीज की कमी नहीं है, and we have just got very very intelligent people, just intelligent, super duper intelligent people. And I meet people across the world because of the export orientation, and I feel that we are very very entrepreneurial. And that is example of Dr. Shah, who was a professional, started his own. I think Indian people want to do their own business, and even if they are working for someone, they want to do something like apna khud ka. So I think that entrepreneurial spirit with the PLI support from government and the excellent work done by the industry bodies, I think this scheme will be very successful. Thank you so much. Back to you, Jai Selan sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prashant Nagve, and I appreciate your optimistic way of telling, and you went one step ahead and said we should not wait for any incentive. We, as an entrepreneur, we have responsibility and we need to invest. That's a good thing that every entrepreneur has to take. We will come back to you once the other panel complete his session. Now we are going to go with Mr. Sumit Agarwal, CFO. Including me, the other two who have spoken, all are pharmacists. We talk technology and other things. But the topic is on the PLI scheme. So we ideally need a finance person coming in and highlighting us. So we have here Sumit Agarwal, the CFO of Ishta Drugs and Industries. As a second generation entrepreneur, he has over 20 years experience in the pharma industry, managing his family promoted companies both in API and pharmaceutical formulation sectors. He completed his MBA Finance from NMIMS, Mumbai, and has also worked with a financial institution before joining his company. With a rich experience of API industry, he has been invited here to speak on, and let us listen to his view on the theme, whether can PLI scheme make India self-sufficient. Sir, please. Sir, I think you are in mute, sir. Please remove the mute. You are in the mute.
Sorry. Am I audible now? Okay. Thank you, Jai Selan. And very good morning to you, friends. I'm speaking after three very learned speakers. So do bear with me if I repeat some of those points, because the issues facing the industry, the issues with the PLI scheme remain common, whoever is the speaker. So, friends, the PLI scheme is a very welcome first step for mainly two reasons. The scheme is an indication that the government has realized the vulnerability of Indian pharma industry to Chinese imports. The vulnerability was exposed last year when China was shut down during February and March on account of the pandemic and the Chinese New Year. During that time, industry as well as the government was literally tracking stocks of critical APIs on a day-to-day basis. Though this information was always available in the public domain, this pandemic has brought this vulnerability to the fore. Secondly, the PLI scheme has also shown us that the government has realized the strategic importance of the API and pharma industry. The drug security of the country is strategically as important as defense or the food security of the country. These two reasons led the government to take several steps, mainly the PLI scheme to reduce our dependence on imported APIs and to encourage the domestic industry. The PLI scheme will definitely provide a much needed impetus to the bulk drug industry and is a step in the right direction. But having said that, let us also realize that the PLI scheme is no magic wand. The PLI scheme alone cannot make us Atmanirbhar, so to speak. The highlights of the scheme, including some of its features and some of its drawbacks, have already been discussed in detail by Viranchi Bhai. So I will not go too much in detail about that. I would rather like to discuss what more can we do, or can the government and industry do to achieve this goal of being Atmanirbhar. I believe the government needs to take steps that lead to sustainable growth for the API industry, and not just for a specified period of time, through incentives, as Mr. Nagre very clearly and rightly pointed out. And sustainable long-term growth will come only when we become more cost competitive with China and have industry-friendly policies. So what steps does the government and the industry need to take for that? Based on my experience and the overall demands of the industry for the past 5-10 years, I'll try to list out some of these steps. Firstly, the development of bulk drug parks or clusters across the country. Now, bulk drug parks with common facilities are the key to sustainable long-term growth for the Indian API industry. These parks would have common effluent treatment plants, common captive power plants, common utilities, common solvent storage tanks, common testing facilities, and much more. In fact, industries in the cluster or the bulk drug park would even look at common purchase of raw materials, solvents, equipment, and services. This would greatly help reduce costs, especially for MSME industries who otherwise do not enjoy economies of scale. As Viranchi Bhai said very rightly, the government of India has announced a scheme for setting up of 3 bulk drug parks in the country, with the assistance of about 3,000 crores. However, till date, the location of the parks have not been announced. I do feel the government needs to speed up this process and ensure proper implementation of the ground of these parks on the grounds, because they could really hold the key to self-sufficiency in APIs. Next, I think as Mr. Nagre pointed out, we need to focus on R&D. Today, many APIs or KSMs are not manufactured in India simply we do not have the right cost-effective technology. Industry needs to invest in R&D to develop cost-effective technologies. We need to research and innovate for newer and cleaner, greener technologies. To reduce the costs and risks associated with the R&D, the government needs to maybe set up a seed fund to set up common R&D centers, or invest in startups, technological startups who are in this field and in this chemistry. Another recurrent demand by industry has been for the reinstatement of the weighted tax deduction of 200% on R&D expenditure. If the government does accede to this demand, it would really encourage R&D. And the government also needs to encourage and facilitate industry academia collaboration. This linkage has worked very well in other countries and could reap rich dividends for us too. The focus on R&D would help develop technologies in the long term and reduce our dependence on imports. In the short term, we could look for technology transfers. This is how China has obtained many technologies in the API and KSM business. I believe few units having obtained approval under the PLI scheme have also gone for this route. So in the short term, tech transfer could be one of the ways forward for us. Thirdly, the environmental laws and regulations. One of the major factors holding back the growth of API industry in the last decade or so are the currently existing environmental laws. The laws are too complicated and too cumbersome. For instance, an application for environmental clearance could take up anywhere between 18 months to 3 years, or change in product mix application could take anywhere between 6 to 12 months. More importantly, there is no flexibility for manufacturers to manufacture products based on market demand and conditions. For instance, if I have a permission from the pollution department to manufacture 50 tons of paracetamol, and during the pandemic, the demand for paracetamol goes up and I want to manufacture 60 metric tons. There's a long procedure which would take up 18 months to get that permission. Is that really viable in today's circumstances? Or let's say there's a demand for dexamethasone. Now this needs to change urgently, and the government needs to overhaul these regulations urgently. Now, it is not my case that API industry should be allowed to pollute more. No, definitely not. But the flexibility to manufacture products as per market demand and uh, procedural changes to allow for faster clearances need to be put in place. For example, the government made a relaxation to obtain faster environmental clearance, EC as it is called, during the last 1 year, during the time of the pandemic. It is, it is very heartening to note that this change allowed so many API industries to go in for environmental clearances, and the number of API units obtaining ECs in the last 1 year is more than the last previous 2 to 3 years combined. So if the policies are right, there will be many more industries coming forward to set up units and to expand their existing capacities. Viranchi Bhai, I think, pointed out that government has recently given us a concession, a major dream come true sort of concession for the Indian industry, where the government allowed environmental clearance to be issued in the generic name of API and drug intermediates instead of specific product names. Now, this would give us flexibility to manufacture different products with the same pollution load. Unfortunately, the reality is that the implementation of this notification at the ground level is not happening as much as we would like to, because there is reluctance at the state levels to accept this. So we really, the government, the central government, state government and industry, we need to work much more closely to address these issues, which could really allow the Indian pharma industry to thrive and prosper. Lastly, upgradation of existing API industries. There's an estimated 30% spare capacity in the existing units in the country, especially in some of the MSME units. The government needs to somehow enhance the scope of the PLI scheme to include such brownfield units and include more products, more import products, so that this excess capacity can be utilized and the newer products can be brought out in a faster time. Also, if we really want to unleash the animal spirit of the API industry, the government needs to encourage more and more MSME units to upgrade their units to international standards, to WHO GMP standards, to PIC standards. Such upgraded plans with international approvals could even overcome a cost disadvantage vis-a-vis China. Similarly, units need to upgrade and shift to newer and better effluent treatment technologies, zero liquid discharge, etc., for sustainable growth. For both these purposes, the government may need to provide financial support by way of a capital subsidy or an interest subvention scheme, as has been done for many other sectors. These steps, if implemented, will also attract large international API players to shift or outsource their manufacturing operations to India, which will bring economies of scale and also provide a fillip to the entire API industry ecosystem. To sum it up, the government needs to have a holistic approach for the next 10 to 15 years and be hand-holding this industry and be more responsive to the needs and demands of the industry. It is a continuous journey, and proactive steps on the part of the policymakers and the government will help the API manufacturing industry to revive and shine again. I'll hand it back to you, Jayaselanji.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith Agarwal. Within the given time, you have put lot of insight what government can do additionally. It would be nice if government people have attended this session, they would have got some insight out of it. And with the given time, all of you, the great speakers and the panelists, have highlighted what is the need of the scheme and what is the need of the industry. And we have a very little time to complete this session. So I want to go as a fast route with only one question with all panels and close this session. Let me go to Mr. Viranji Shah. I would like to clarify, since this scheme is given as a selected scheme, see, already any API, for example, one company would be already manufacturing. In that API, you are giving an extra discount or scheme or 30%, whatever, to a new greenfield person. If that person is going to come and cut the price, what will happen to the existing manufacturer? Don't you think this scheme will not promote monopoly in that direction?
Jaisalanji, I don't think it will promote monopoly because it is not one person who is getting it. Government is giving to multiple players. That is number one. Second thing is we have to start. Don't consider this as the final step. That's what I told in my speech. This is one of the steps, and this is a very dynamic industry. So the interaction will go on as problem comes, and you are a part of IDMA. You know that. So as problem comes, as issues come, we'll talk to the government and the regulators. And I can assure you, with my experience, the government and regulators are very positive to help this industry grow. So as things come up, as things shape, if there are such issues, we'll bring it to the notice, and I think we'll come out with some of the other solutions. But as of now, I don't believe it is going to straight away lead to monopoly.
Well said, Ranjibhai. And as Mr. Sumit said, this environmental policy, see, the problem for us is pharma is governed by multiple ministries, like environment reporting to forest ministry, pharmaceutical, commerce, pharmaceutical is price control, health is regulatory. So what is happening is you are doing a good job in IDMA representing to each department the problems, and we will take it through the environmental ministers once again and ensure what Mr. Smith said is happening. Now, Mr. Prashant, being a biotech, just one question I'd like to ask you. Yeah, you re-insisted and reinforced that the entrepreneur should invest and make this fermentation and the biotech industry to greater heights. And you also mentioned we have enough talent. My question would be regarding the basic key starting raw material, when we will become self-sustained. Any government support you are expecting further in biotechnology side to create infrastructure for this key starting raw material? Any such ideas from you?
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, it is very interesting as to how the next wave would be. I mean, what from here? I mean, there are few list of 41 ingredients that you can make, and then what next? So I think so for me, that is a very emotional question. Is how is the startup ecosystem working elsewhere? You take case of Silicon Valley or anything. So I attend exhibitions internationally, let us say food exhibitions, because we are a nutraceutical company. In a industry exhibition, they're not less than in America, more than 10 universities competing with each other to offer projects of collaboration, and they're exhibiting in the industry exhibitions. जैसे अपना CPHI, for example, या any other, you have universities from that country participating to attract for projects and collaborative work. I think that is where we should start. So government of India with its CSIR to all the universities that are there, and even private universities put together, should encourage working with industry, because I think that also speaks too much about the protection of IPR and the trust that is there. It is changing now, but that is one. We have to trust people unless it is broken. And I think the current India is very different. It is a collaborative India. We have so many examples throughout the IT here in India where the collaborative and the trust principle is there. So I think pharma, which is very, very conservative in collaboration, probably not at the highest level of intensity of trusting people and kind of collaborating. There are other industries who will score. That is where we have to go. And that will bring in the advantage of the next wave of molecules and solutions, greener chemistry. For example, our company was 30 years ago started an enzymatic biotransformation, which is greener chemistry. Many problems today in the API industry that we feel are there because we never adopted more greener chemistry route. We are very strong on chemistry, so we just don't want to change that to a bioenzymatic pathway. And that has been an underinvested area. That's where, again, the new generation of startups, industry, collaborations with the universities, private or government, can work. So I will not extend this beyond this, but I think that's a short collaborative approach which is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prashant. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Final question to you. You mentioned a lot of things, including SME support is needed and 200% R&D expenditure need to be attended. Being a financial person, you said it right. And even the bulk drug parts, we are expecting any movement it might come. What I would like to check with you is for this SME, in the current PLI scheme, anything you would like to suggest from the financial side, better SME can be concentrated or better support can be given, particularly for the API industries?
Sir, the present PLI scheme, I mean the PLI 1 scheme, uh, I think the aim of the government was to promote economies of scale, and so have plans set up with certain minimum annual capacities. Now, previously, I mean, just to give you a background, the government had also insisted on minimum investment required for these plants. But after IDMA represented, I think the minimum investment has been changed to committed investment, and the focus is on the annual capacities. Now, if you look at some of the capacities that have been mentioned, probably many of those products would be outside the scope of MSMEs, looking to the investments required. But yes, certain molecules where the annual capacities has been reduced in the revised guidelines would certainly fall under the scope of MSMEs, and it remains to be seen how many MSMEs are ready and able to take up the challenge under this PLI scheme.
Yeah, I think it's well said. Like what Dr. Virenji Bhai said, it's only a beginning. We are all working together, and it's a good beginning. Government has taken the initiative. Might be when IDMA and IPA goes further and talking, we will know what are the MSME in terms of this application. 215 received, how much has come from MSME, all those things can be relooked, and we will continuously represent the government to upgrade it. But overall, if you see, it's a good beginning, and this PLI scheme will definitely help the industry to move towards self-sufficiency or self-dependency, like he said. And I thank each one of you. It was very nice. Initially, we were talking, some repetition might be there. There was no repetition at all. Everybody given your view, very nice. Thank you, Mr. Virenji Bhai, Mr. Prashant, and Mr. Smith, for your valuable feedbacks and valuable input to this session. Now, I thank, on behalf of all of us, I thank the Elets Pharma Leaders Summit for organizing this event. Thanks for calling all of us. And the session is over to Pratibha Raj.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot for coordinating and streamlining the questions so well. Right questions to the right people. And PLI scheme is a very important topic when it comes for pharma industry. So this is a very important session, and the takeaways are all the points which you had. Each experts had spoken is will be taken, and we'll also be taking a post-event report in our magazine in the upcoming edition. We will be publishing all your views, and we will be populating it to all the concerned pharma experts, because the moderator here said that most of the government speakers should have come and listen to this. So we make sure that it will go to them, and these expert points and views will be shared with them. With that note, I would like to also present the Pharma Leadership Awards to our esteemed speakers over here. Thanks a lot, Mr. Jay Shrilan, once again, the Vice President of Industrial Pharmacy Division, IPA. Thanks a lot for joining in and helping us streamlining this sessions. Mr. Prashant Nagri, the CEO of Fermenta Biotech Limited. Thanks a lot, Prashant, sir, for your views, and Dr. Virenji Shah, the Senior Vice President of IDMA and Saga Laboratories. Thanks a lot, Dr. Virenji, for your views, and Mr. Sumit Agarwal, the CEO of Ishita Drugs and Industries Limited, for participating. Thanks a lot to each one of you. Please take care of yourself and stay safe. We'll be coming back to you all with a lot of segments, and make sure that your views are taken. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you.